Public Lands and Buildings Committee, July 11th, 2024. Due to a lack of quorum, Public Lands and Buildings will not meet tonight. Economic Development Committee, July 11th, 2024. Due to a lack of quorum, Economic Development will not meet tonight. Health and Safety Committee, July 11th, 2024.
I call the Health and Safety Committee meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. Members present are Kevin Myers, C. Aaron Sherrick, James Me, and myself, Vicki DeShawn, as chair. First, we have public participation. If anyone wishes to speak to the committee, please come to the podium, state your name and address. Seeing no one. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve the June 20th, 2024 regular Health and Safety Committee meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the June 20th, 2024 regular Health and Safety Committee meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion by Sherrick, second by me. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Next, we have on our agenda marijuana regulations, which was also referred to Finance and to the Platting Committee. I know that Mr. Me had spoke with, I know Mike, but last name again? Keefe. Do we want to have Mike just come and speak during our Health and Safety Committee meeting?
I think so.
Okay, great.
Because this is a committee that's going to decide whether.
That's right, you did mention that. Thank you.
Mike Keefe, zoning administrator. I want to present just what I have found so far in the revised code on the requirements for a proposed dispensary. There's quite a few restrictions. It can be cannot be less than 500 feet from the boundaries and parcels of real estate owned by schools, churches, public libraries, public playgrounds, public parks, or opioid treatment programs. That is set by the Ohio Administrative Code, Section 3796.6. So far in my 3 weeks here, I have taken 4 calls about cannabis dispensaries. Everything from dispensaries to growing operations. What does the city have in place? And since we have nothing in zoning, we need to see what the city wants to do and move forward either way.
I mean, I don't know enough about this at all.
I've got some questions, and I think Mr. Gernert's probably the one to answer them. But if anybody else knows the answers to these, if you can
Sure.
let me ask a few.
Sure.
When we're talking about any taxation that occurs, does the city make any money off the taxation, or does it all revert to the state? That's my first question. Do you know the answer, Greg?
You make it.
We do as a city?
Sure.
Okay,
Definition.
then. What's that?
There is a moratorium that you can tax cannabis in the city limits of Bucyrus if you so desire to do that.
Okay.
Now, state also gets taxed.
Sure. I just didn't know if it was a case
And then
where
you get an
we make nothing on it.
No, you actually can put a tax on yourself
Okay.
for that, but then you also,
Get the portion back from the state.
you
Yeah.
get also the portion back from the state.
Here's the thing, and this may be an unpopular opinion, but I'm going to tell a quick story. When our great grandparents were growing up, they thought that when the skirts went above the ankles that the world was coming to an end, right? Times change, things change, whether you like it or not. This is going to be the way that things are going to be moving into the future, and we have an opportunity for an economic impact to seize that. Or we can say, no, we don't want that here, and we lose out financially on that. There are other places that have heard people discussing that become a destination for that reason. If that's what people's vice is, so be it. If we have the ability to bring people to our community, if they're coming because they want to buy that, they're going to do other stuff here. They're going to eat at our restaurants. They're going to shop at our shops. I'm in favor of being proactive. taking the right steps to get our share of the pie and be progressive about it.
Proactive, but we also have to have regulations surrounding it.
That's my point.
We can't
I wanna
have
make-
people smoking dope walking down the street.
That's my point, yeah. I want to be proactive and put everything in place the right way, but I don't want us just say, my opinion is I don't just want to say no.
Yeah, come and buy it and leave.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Or not even be able to buy it. You know, that's the thing. And here's the other part of that. You know, smoke shops are popping up on every corner, it seems. That's going to continue. In the big picture, is there any difference to what we see as looking in our neighborhoods? And we can't regulate those. And here's a chance where we can get some income.
Ideally, we would like to see it be in the general business district, or in the light industrial, commercial district, just for traffic and commerce.
Would that be something that just like any other business, we could look at it on a case-by-case basis with the zoning appeals board? If an opportunity presented itself to,
That would be a Brian question.
yeah.
Just that.
Because I like what you're saying there, just overall, this makes sense, but there might be a random place that makes sense, it doesn't fit within.
Well, just to give you an example, in here, and there's a company called Farland Scientific. They are a grower, and they also have a lab. Right now, they are currently have legislation with the city of Huron to have or get permission to be a dispensary as well on the same property. So they're also expanding. So they're in the industrial park, light and heavy commercial, but they're also only 500 feet from Bowling Green State University's campus in Huron. So I think it's different from schools to secondary and college level property. Well, plus it being state property.
Right.
So I think there's a good possibility that with the company I talked to this morning, they're looking to expand, grow in other parts of the
Did
state.
they reach out to you because they're interested in coming here?
They called me yesterday, or they emailed me yesterday. I talked to the sales rep this morning, and he said that he'd be more than happy to come and talk.
I love it.
So,
I think that'd be a good idea.
Vicki? Would
Yes.
be good for us to see if Brian can look into this and see what regulations we need to look at maybe coming up with, while we also have these people come in to talk to us.
Do you have the ability to reach out to the city Huron and ask them to send you what
I grew
they
up
have
in
on the
Huron.
books? Okay, so to see what they already have on the books that we can compare to.
Okay.
This is a starting place. I mean, we could throw a dart at a map and pick somewhere, but this is a place we know has something on the books already. You know, that would be
Okay.
great.
And are we wanting to have someone come and speak?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, after you could get what they have to bring, through Miranda, could get back out to us and then.
I could
invite them in.
get the zoning administrator from here to come down.
I think that's
That'd
great.
be awesome.
But I think the last thing I want to see is us do nothing and then it's too late because everybody's went elsewhere.
We need to check.
Because Huron County already banned it. So they banned everything. They even started it 3 years ago when I was still a township trustee. So we put everything in the zoning to ban it. So that and windmills and solar farms.
So just so I'm understanding, you're going to make contact with this individual and get legislative information or whatever information he has? And
And see
then,
if I can get him to come down to a council
okay,
meeting.
and that was going to be my question. Do we want them at a council meeting or at a committee meeting?
I'd say a
talk.
committee meeting for this committee again,
Okay.
which would be 2 weeks from tonight on July 25th. Be the next one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else on this particular subject?
The other
Okey-doke.
thing we looked at was the industrial park. I was talking to Michael today. That serves all the needs that they would need
Yeah.
as a grow facility.
Could we start saying that food and beverage site is a food and beverage and marijuana site?
If you get the munchies.
Right.
Okay, next, open projects. Does anybody have any open project on our list that they wish to discuss? Next, public participation again.
Yes. Bill Stuckert, 205 North Spring Street, on the issue of the marijuana operations. Mr. Myers made the comment about our great-grandparents, grandparents, when the skirts went above the knees, about it becoming the end of the world. Well, it has become the end of the world to them, you know, in their eyes. Our society has declined so badly since their generation that, and it's continuing to decline. And things like allowing the open use of marijuana is one of those things that has caused the decline of our society. I do not think that this is a good idea at all to allow marijuana dispensaries in the city of Bucyrus. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one, I will adjourn the Health and Safety Committee meeting at 6:12 PM.
Service Committee, July 11th, 2024.
Service Committee meeting called to order at 6:13. Members present, Sierra and Sheriff, Kevin Myers, Christopher Mauritz, Chair, Zion Hickman absent. Any public participation at this time? Seeing none, I'd like to have a approval of minutes for June 6, 2024, and also June 20th, 2024 for regular service committee meetings.
I'd like to make a motion for a joint approval of minutes for both the June 6, 2024 regular service committee meeting and the June 20th regular service committee meeting minutes.
I will second that.
Sheriff first, Myers second. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Title IX was supposed to be brought up today for Bucyrus codified ordinances. It's not yet ready for prime time. Still going through administration, rewording. So that's not ready yet. Can I see if we can table that till next one or till they're ready?
That's perfectly fine.
I'd like to table that then. Any open project anybody want to talk about? Okay. Public participation again. Seeing none, adjourn at 6:15.
Platting Committee, July 11th, 2024.
Platting Committee called to order at 6:15. Aaron Sherrick, Carolyn Shireman's absent, Vicki DeShawn, James Mead, Chair. Public participation. Seeing none. Approval of the minutes for June 20th, 2024, regular Platting Committee meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the June 20th, 2024 regular plating committee meeting.
Thank you, Aaron.
And I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Vicki. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Changes to the BCO 1189.03B, general resurfacing. Mr. Gurnall's got that, and we haven't received it yet, so we'll move on until we get a chance to look at it. Amendment to the ponds of the codified ordinance to include amendment to the Bucyrus Code ordinance to include ponds. We haven't got that back from Brian yet, so we'll move on past that. I did, just to speak on ponds for a minute, I did request from Mr. Gerner that we add, get my notes here, a minimum size of 1.5 acres to be considered for a pond, and it must have a fence around it, but to be considered to the BZA, okay?
And that's what we had talked about at the
We talked
last.
about that, you good?
Yep.
So that should be added in there when we get that back. 316 and 320 East Woodlawn, Mr. and Mrs. Reverend Rebon has a church there. He wants to build a accessory structure. He's currently in AR, which is apartment residential, which does not let them build a accessory structure. So Mrs. Rebon taught my children. I mean, they've always been pillars of the community. I think we should do whatever we can to help them and the church out, please.
Are they able to get that rezoned? Like, I
That's
mean,
what-
is
that was
that'd be
my next-
Step one
that would
was
be
first
my
they have
next
to go
comment.
through the rezoning so we could change it?
So the rezoning would be R3, which is across the street. So we wouldn't island them, we would just enter them
Yeah, add
in,
it
just
to
their
it.
property into that R3. So they're AR now. We want to make them the church property only, not the whole block or anything, just their property in R3, which allows for the accessory structure.
And have you had a discussion with our zoning office?
That's where I got the information from, yes.
Okay,
So, yep.
Yes.
and this would be an issue that we'd have to have a public hearing.
Yeah, and I told Mr. Rebon that it's gonna be spring probably before we get caught up on everything and get this straightened out, because we'd have to have public hearings, 3 readings, the whole 9 yards. And
yeah.
he seemed to be okay with that.
And I mean, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking, I wouldn't see why it wouldn't be done yet this year. I mean, 3 readings.
Well, I was giving us,
Well, yes,
But just in case.
just in case,
Yeah.
okay.
huh?
Should that be done by September or what, early October?
You're right, but I was just giving us some time.
Okay.
That
You
that
never know
cushion
what
in case
happens.
anything slows us down.
I like a little cushion. Okay? Do you have any comments on this, Mike? Do you have any comments on this? Rezoning it,
It's a good idea for it to be rezoned.
rather than rezone the whole block, or, I think it would be a lot easier.
If we rezone the whole block.
Excuse me, Mike, and I've been lax on doing this. If you'd come to the podium, please. Thank you.
I think if we end up rezoning the whole block, either the south half of the block, everybody to the west is gonna, if there's any other issues in that block, they're gonna be notified of the proposed change in zoning. So maybe there might be some other issue in that block that needs to be changed with the change in
So
zoning.
you're saying by the letter that they're gonna get, they'll be
Yeah.
notified that we're making changes to the area, and now's a good time to do it?
Yeah, because we have to notify for a change of zoning, I do believe it's 200 feet radius around the church property. So that's gonna be within the next block anyway,
Okay.
so I think it'd be a good idea.
So you're saying anything that's contiguous with the church property offered them to also be rezoned?
The option,
Yeah.
because we also have an alley just to the north side of the church. So if there's any properties that it would deem beneficial for the zoning to be changed,
Now's the
have them
time.
voice their opinion at the hearing,
Yes.
so.
So when we rezone, we could rezone just a particular property by itself?
As long as it's contiguous.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Please, come on up to the podium.
Bill Stuckert, 205 North Spring Street. Do we have any idea why this area is zoned AR to begin with?
No.
I think
We do
this is
not.
mostly all, I think this is mostly all, maybe all one resident or two resident structures in this area. I really don't see this should be an AR zoning district anyways. I think this should probably be, the whole district be changed to an R3. Thank you.
What is AR?
Apartment resident.
Oh, okay,
The only apartments that are in that zone
Yeah.
are just to the north.
right.
Something east, Comfort, west and east.
But are they even in the AR?
The west are in the building, or the downtown business district. The east ones are in that AR, I do believe.
Are they?
Lionel Apartments? Yeah.
So we may need to,
So what's the committee think? Do you think we ought to just leave that apartment in AR? Or just take the church and make it an R3? And get rid of AR? AR spans for about 5 blocks, doesn't it? Right in there?
yeah.
Does the R3 keep people from having apartments?
4 or more, I believe.
I'm not familiar with the code to say that yet.
That would be our one question.
I'm guessing it's 4 or more
I don't know how many's in that.
would be for an AR.
So what, maybe double check and make sure that the zoning is correct to begin with right now,
Yeah.
before we,
Right, because if we're going to be doing it, if we need to do
Right.
it all, we might as well do it all.
and since you told Reverend Rebon that he may not get this until spring, hey, there's our cushions.
See?
Do you see why we need a cushion?
Yes, I do.
We're thinking ahead.
So is that something then that, Jim, you want to work with Mr. Keefe on, or?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Great guy to work with, by the way. Welcome to the club.
And I apologize, Jim, for stepping on your toes and asking, who did I ask?
Mr.
Mike to come to the podium. I'm not even the chairperson of this committee.
That's fine.
But I am on the committee, so I suppose that gives me
We're all
a...
council people,
Yeah,
we're all
so,
equal.
okay.
Okay, this 502 Gay Street sidewalk repair, it's separate from the BCO Chapter 905.
Mm-hmm.
So didn't we sort of decide last time that the 502 Gay Street would be up to the residents to fix their sidewalks?
Right.
Okay. Go ahead, because,
We're not, I mean, right now, if we were to address the 502 Gay Street, it would be the responsibility of the council to send a letter to that resident and say, you need to fix your sidewalk. And it's my understanding if they would have so many days, I think 200, and I'd have to look at the minutes.
75.
And if they didn't do it, then the city can step in and have it repaired and then bill the property owner.
bill their taxes, yeah.
So I guess the letter was sort of not going to be addressed right now because we wanted to change Bucyrus Codified Ordinance Chapter 905 to take council out of the picture and put it in the administration hand. And at the last committee meeting, we had requested that Mr. Gernert prepare draft legislation.
Okay, do you want to take that off the list?
Take what off?
Or just table it? Table the 502
Probably
Gay Street, or you want to get rid of it?
Yes.
Table it?
And then also, yes, I think so. Because then the idea was, let's get the Bucyrus Codified Ordinance Chapter 905 in place.
Mhm.
And then I guess if the sidewalk is still in,
Play.
then it's the administration that takes care of it with the property owner, not council. Sure, yes.
Yeah,
mhm,
exactly.
Yeah.
So
So we're
that's-
waiting for a draft ordinance from the law director.
Okay, has everybody seen the Chapter 905 or
Mhm.
not? So the first two paragraphs is the only thing that I believe needs changed, and maybe the,
Yes, because 905.01 talks about council, and then 905.02 talks about councils required to do this.
and
I'll be honest, I haven't read the whole chapter, but just a quick glance over, I think that's the only place where council is referenced.
yeah, and probably while they're doing that, it says on the last page here, no person shall construct or repair a sidewalk until it has been secured a permit from the safety service director. No charge shall for such permit, which I don't know if they want to start charging $20 for those or what, but.
Okay.
Then the $100 a day seems each a little excessive. But so we're going to we're waiting on Gerner for that too, right?
Yes, and of course,
Okay.
the draft ordinance, I'm sure, once he has that prepared, it's just going to be in reference to where council was referred to, because we had never discussed at the last committee meeting about the possibility of charging for a permit. But again, we can get the draft from him, at least my thought is, we look over the draft and then we can say, hey, here's some other changes that, you know, we're looking at.
Cool. Next on the list is Platting Committee for marijuana regulations. So it's not regulations. Platting's more about location more than anything. From what we looked at is the industrial park and maybe the GE building, but other than
Still
that.
waiting on Gerner to figure out exactly.
Right.
Yeah. But other than that, we're really restricted by locations because of the codes, state codes. Okay, letter from the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Of course, this opened up a can of worms because we started looking at our signs and we found a hodgepodge of, Randa likes that word, of a mess, because there's some signs, there's on some entrances to Bucyrus and not signs on other entrances to Bucyrus. So, and I guess we can leave that up to the administration to clean that up and decide whether signs should go on there.
Do we want to,
That's sort of a Gerner question, but yeah, could you flip through those?
Miranda, or not Miranda, Bonnie has up here on our TV, I'll call it, pictures, and I
Yeah.
don't know, are there more than just this one?
Yeah, Michael, you got the mouse?
Just-
Yeah, this one is the east one by the maintenance building at the golf course.
Okay. And there's no welcome to Bucyrus sign there either. That's at the other end of the golf course. Some signs shouldn't be there, is that right, Michael? Mr. Keefe?
On that one, I do believe the Congressional Medal of Honor sign could be separate. I'm not sure what regulation is for that. But I know on this one here, the school bus loading, unloading, and the through truck sign should be on a separate sign, because that's regulated by ODOT. And they'll have manual of uniform traffic control devices manual.
So it wasn't ODOT to put that there, I hope.
All the other ones. This one by Providence.
The real faded one.
Very faded.
That one's a King's Daughter sign.
I know we had a traffic commission meeting this morning, and at the traffic commission meeting, we talked about the letter from the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Well, we brought that up, and then we were discussing what you're seeing here. And the Traffic Committee decided, and if it's my understanding, then we would have to then refer this to council. My thought, but there may be a change. Our decision was to get rid of all of this. That it's just, I mean, again, as you can see, there's faded signs. There's some signs where, well, as you say, that's King's Daughters. King's Daughters hasn't been in existence, or at least, what?
Couple of years.
Yeah.
Late 70s or 80s.
And that what they thought would be nice is to have at the different entrances coming into the city, "Welcome to Bucyrus" sign. But again, all of this would go away. The signs that are on there would be returned to the proper businesses or organizations. They just thought, clean it up. It's a little...
So Bonnie is a graphics designer, and she's offered her services to design a sign, "Welcome to Bucyrus," with mural on it or whatever. I figured maybe 4 or 5 signs. 4 or 5 ideas. Administration, yeah. I know.
Yeah, we worked on this probably 5 years ago, and Vassal's already has a design that was approved at that time, the previous administration, if you want to take a look at that, and maybe not have to recreate the wheel again.
Yeah, she offered to get us prices on signs and stuff.
Yeah,
So-
Vassal's had given us quotes back then as well.
So this covers Route 4 in and out, Route 30, 1900, 98, so there would be 8 signs
Yeah.
on state routes.
One of the things too that I saw, it was somewhere up by Cleveland when I was researching this, like I said, 5 years ago. They had like a flower bed in front of this and around the sign with a small service organization sign that says the site maintained by whatever organization, the Kiwanis, the Rotary. So you could offer that opportunity to an organization to adopt each one of these sites. That way you're not using city employees to go out and cut weeds and water flowers and whatever else. And
But would you have that separate from the Welcome to Bucyrus sign?
yeah, so what the one that I saw was, a huge, as like Strongsville or something, "Welcome to this community," and then down here, real small, this site, kind of like what you see up on the square, there's a little sign that says it's the garden club maintains the flowers there. Kind of a neat concept. So it does give some of the organizations that are asking to be recognized at the city's entrance an opportunity, but you wouldn't be, one organization is not going to have their sign at all 8 locations, probably.
And Kevin, didn't you also state that there was some question of why this committee's even discussing this, that this should be
Yeah,
administration?
when we were dealing with it 5 years ago, it was an administrative function, and I believe that's still where it belongs. I think, maybe just getting the attaboy approval from this committee to say, hey, administration, do your thing. I think that the administration has every ability and right to take care of this project without the intervention of council.
So there's posts falling down out on 98 and everything else. Signs are bent up.
Well,
It just looks nasty.
Some
I'm
of them
sorry.
aren't even at the current city limits, like the ones at the golf course. My guess is that was probably the city limits when it was built.
Right. And it needs to be moved a quarter of a mile out, But
And then, Mike, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I will. Your comments, because we do have an email here, we were provided an email from the church, and if I'm understanding this correctly, they already have 5 signs. I guess, how are we going to address their inquiry on, of course, what they're asking for? It says, well, I don't know, or maybe this was, they were looking, well, I don't know, were they looking to put their signs on this big which we're now at
You
least,
said you're gonna take them down
Yeah.
and burn them all. That
Yeah.
answers your question.
From what I took from reading the email, was that they were looking to get new signs made and put them up or replace the ones that were there.
okay.
That's what I got from the email.
So if we do away with what we have right now, I don't know what, oh yeah, the signs are approximately 25 by 30 in size. I don't know how big.
5
or-
signs, yeah.
Yeah. Can they still put these signs up?
If it's,
And
if
do they
it's
meet
20 if
the,
it's 24 by 30,
yes?
yes, you can.
Okay.
Anything over that falls under the BZA,
Okay,
so. And also signs bigger than 6 square feet also falls under Richland County Building Code. And they have to sign off on it,
okay,
just like any business sign that goes up.
okay.
They have to review it.
But again, they're saying here that the signs are approximately 24 by 30 in size. So my question is,
That's a lot bigger than the sign they have up on the other side, post.
is this something that, and I guess maybe this is where we would want to check with the church, if we're not going to have that for them to put a sign on, are they still wanting to post signs somewhere?
I think we're trying to limit it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're, okay, gotcha, okay.
The only other answer is they would have to find a private property owner that would allow them permission to do that.
Because we're not wanting to do it on city property,
And it would still
okay,
have to go along with all of the codes that are currently in place.
okay. So then I guess my question would be, I mean, I feel we need to respond or acknowledge.
Yeah, but I think we need to figure out exactly what
What
we're
we're gonna
doing
do
before
before, okay,
we respond to them.
okay, okey-doke.
Mr. White?
Thank you, Mr. Mead, Chairman Mead. Greg White, 1125 Hillcrest Drive. I think the solution to this, if you want to put together 8 new signs to welcome people to the city of Bucyrus, and you want somebody responsible to take care of those signs, then why not allow some of these groups and organizations that want to be a part of this to where they will pay for the sign, they will maintain it and the property around it, and then below that, this is sponsored by,
That's what I just said.
Yeah, I was gonna
so
say,
I'm going on that thing.
That's
They're
what Mr.
responsible,
Mauritz said.
that's what I'm saying. Let them be the sponsor of that sign to where they're maintaining everything. I agree with Mr.
but you're
Myers.
asking for them to pay for the sign,
Let them pay.
not the city.
Not the city. Let them find the financial ways to pay for these signs, maintain these signs, the properties around them, okay? And yes, we should allow them to have a little thing on there, not a big sign, but something that says that this is sponsored by whatever church or whatever organization, and if they want to list their address, that as long as it's in proper proportion to the sign.
24 by 30, since they've
Well,
already
you can
got it.
change that. But what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
something that looks nice, and if they want to put flower beds in or whatever, but they would be responsible for maintaining and for upkeep of that area. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we should design it so they all say.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, but I think they should, if they want to put a sign up, see if they would sponsor it.
Okay. We good there? Any more questions or responses or comments on the signs?
So how did we leave it with the signs? I'm sort of being brain dead here.
We're going to do a little bit more research on it.
Well, okay,
So, as far as those signs that's up there now, we're believing the city can take those down and return them back to their proper owners? You good, Tommy, on that? All right.
I'll have it done by lunch tomorrow.
I'm sure you will. So now we're going to look for prices on new signs, or are we going to leave that up to the administration too? Welcome to Bucyrus signs.
Admin sounds like a really nice group to find out about more of that.
Who?
The administration.
Okay.
Okay.
You got that? Tommy, we're just loading your table up tonight, buddy. All right, on to open projects. Public participation. Mr. Stuckert.
Thank you. Bill Stuckert, 205 North Spring Street. Back on the subject of ponds included in the codified ordinances. I definitely am in favor of adding ponds to be allowed in the city of Bucyrus, and I think Mr. Mee has a good point there of requiring a minimum of
1.5
acreage, 1.5 acres or whatever. But I do not think that a fence is necessary around the pond.
Okay, let me explain that. We're going to mandatory a fence, but we're going to leave it up to the BZA to decide whether they actually need a fence. Because Mr. Diber, he really doesn't need a fence. He's way out on the outside of town.
Right.
So that will be, he'll come before the BZA and ask, so he doesn't have to have a fence. So that's the way I was sort of thinking about it. Is that what you were thinking about?
Okay.
Or?
Well, that's one approach, yeah, but my opinion really is for a fence requirement around a pond. Ponds typically are gradual slope banks to the water. They're not straight drop-offs like swimming pools are.
Mm-hmm.
So there's less likely of accidental falling into a pond than into a swimming pool, and drowning. Think about the fact that you have the Sandusky River running all the way through town, and that fills up with water quite often, plenty deep enough for somebody to fall in and drown. And there are plenty of kids playing along the river throughout the city that can easily fall in that city and drown. I don't think we're going to be able to put a fence along both sides of the river all the way through town. And that would be about the same thing as requiring a fence around a pond.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, that would make it so much easier for a person who wants to put a pond in. Then would save a step of having to go to the BZA and ask for a variance. I guess the first thought was, and maybe it's not a correct thought, and now especially, Jim, since you're indicating that we're looking that a pond requires a 1.5 acres. There's no place in town,
Very few.
but there are places then in town that could put a pond.
I can't get them, name them off the top of my
Okay.
head, but there are a few, yes.
But not ones that the ponds are already established, because they probably would be grandfathered in.
Right. they
We're
are
talking anyone
grandfathered
that
in.
puts in a new pond. And that was my only concern, is if there is some place here in town where a new pond could be placed. Here in town, there's, children, I mean, there's residential living, Mike.
I admit, there are sections of the zoning code that need to be revised. A lot of it was established in the 60s and 70s. I admit there's, the pond requirement for the acreage, I think could probably be adjusted. But you also have to think about stormwater retention in town with water dumping into a pond, and then when that floods, it's going to cause flooding in adjoining properties. And then that's going to cause just, it can just multiply like crazy if we're gonna allow ponds in town. Since it's set at 1.5 acres, we're regulating it pretty good.
Okay.
So, because yes, I bet there's probably less than 20 properties that are an acre and a half in
Very,
town.
very few.
And I mean, most of it's up by the golf course and down southeast.
There's some southeast, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, keeping it at an acre and a half, it makes sense because of the lot size, the footprint of the houses, the amount of stormwater coming off the roofs, and yeah, people are probably gonna be dumping water off the roofs and in the yards into the ponds. So that's why it's set at 1.5 acres. That's set in a few other towns and townships as well.
So are you saying that we should not have the fence, or there's no need to have the fence requirement? And by saying by us saying that we require a fence, we're also giving the individual the ability then to go to the BZA and ask for a variance to that requirement.
I think it needs to go to the BZA, but I think the requirement for a fence around a pond should be dictated where the pond is on the property, or where they want to put the pond on the property.
That's
If
why.
it's in the front, I think it needs a fence. Only because if it's within, say, 30 feet from the edge of the pavement, you need a fence around that pond. But I'm going off of ODOT's requirement for ponds that are less than 25 feet from the right-of-way and edge of pavement.
I don't have the legislation in front of me, but I'm pretty sure we disallowed to have a pond in front of the house.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
reading it here.
But it's also set that way because of vehicle speed on township, county, and state highways. And in town, the highest we're going is 35 or 25.
It says such pond shall not be located in any front yard and shall adhere to all the applicable setback requirements. Such pond including any walks, paved areas, and appurtenances thereto shall not be located in any front yard. I think it's just the same with our swimming pools. They're not allowed to be in the front yard.
But I also think some should be added to the code as well, besides ponds, because you also have koi ponds in landscaping. That's also gonna have to be added to this section.
So let's make
Because
sure
that's
you,
gonna have
let's
to be
make sure you
regulated.
get a copy of this and you look it over and add your notes to it or whatever you think should be added to it for
Okay.
the protection of our citizens.
Okay. Do you have any other questions for me, Vicki?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kevin Myers, 421 West Oakwood. My only question, and it's rhetorical, why do we have the regulation right now that you have to have a fence around a pool?
Because
Because it's an attractive nuisance, correct?
kids' safety.
It's an
to
attractive
somebody-
nuisance, kids
Okay.
would want to, and I understand what Mr. Stuckert's saying, obviously the river is impossible, but I think a pond is just as much of an attractive nuisance, if not more of an attractive nuisance than a pool is, and so I'm absolutely in favor of having a fence. It doesn't have to be right around the pond, it needs to be around the property. If I'm a 10-year-old kid or a 3-year-old kid or whatever that wants to go out and explore, I'm not going to say, well, because it's further out of town, doesn't matter. If there's a kid that's out walking or playing or doing whatever, they're going to go wherever. I don't think you can pick and choose where an emergency is going to happen. But I just really think that if we have a regulation already in place for the pool, for that reason, a pond is no different. It's a body of water that a interested young kid might want to goof around, is going to do the same thing, so.
Okay, thank you. Chris?
Chris Mauritz, 226 Plymouth Street. I wanted to go back on the 502 Gray Street sidewalk. This letter that we might are going to send to the property owners eventually, Is that already a cover letter? It's already done and just established and,
I don't
that
think
we're
so.
going to, you
It's-
got to fix your sidewalk at this particular time?
Yeah,
Because then you get into width of the sidewalk, depth of the sidewalk. Is it going to have water drain runoff on the sidewalk?
here, you can read this. We're gonna have this changed from city council to administration.
Well, I just want to make sure if we just tell them they have to fix their sidewalk, they're not just going to go in there and put something in there they just want to put in there.
It's all
on
stated
there.
in there. So
Cool.
the first two paragraphs are changing and getting it out of the council's hands and getting it into administration, so it can be taken care of right now. They don't have to go through a month of regulations, so.
Okay, yeah, that's one of the things I was worried about when I said we were going to send a letter, so it's like, make sure that they know that it's got to be,
Yeah, it
What it
won't,
is.
to me, it won't be coming from city council to,
no, it doesn't matter where it
eventually
comes
it's gonna
from.
be
It's
coming
just
from
that,
administration.
it's just that, we need to make sure they just don't put any kind of willy-nilly sidewalk they put in there.
You don't want a wooden sidewalk in there?
A willy-nilly kind of sidewalk, it's, put in there what they want to put in there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand.
Because our idea of a sidewalk, the administration's idea of a sidewalk might be different than what they want.
Well, it's described in there.
Yeah, good. That's why I was hoping it'd be part of their letter they receive, where they'd have to refer to these to put theirs in there.
I mean, actually, if you're gonna spend all the time to go out and look at a sidewalk and send them a letter, send them a copy of
Yeah.
our revised version of that.
There you go. That'll work. Okay.
But just an idea. That's up to administration.
So I guess on ponds, we're still waiting for, the law director had done an initial draft ordinance.
Yes.
But then, oh no, that was on something else. Mr. Gertert said at the last committee meeting that he was going to discuss with the new zoning director on the variance and conditional use to make sure the language lines up, because Landon had given us a letter setting forth, his thoughts on the matter when he was working there in the office. And that was where he said, if council is interested in allowing ponds as a residential accessory use, addition of language in chapter 1187, additional residential district standards, could be appropriate, as it can cover all residential zoning districts. If desired, the new accessory use could be added as a conditional use, making it subject to approval from the Board of Zoning Appeals. Any requirements Platting Committee would like to see or any recommended through the public hearing process then could be added to the language for the BZA to consider in making its decision. And then he said examples of potential requirements to consider: minimum lot size, size of the pond, potential fencing, or access control requirements. Well, when Law Director Gerner had prepared the initial draft, he hadn't incorporated
Any of that, yes.
the fact of, the BZA and, or that we could look at chapter 1187 and do this, make this accessory use could be added as a conditional use. So that's what he was going to, or at least we had asked at the last meeting.
Right,
For
and
him to look at that and incorporate that in here.
And I emailed him too, Brian,
Okay.
about it, so.
So then I guess, are we wanting to just wait for the draft ordinance?
And look at it again, and if it's not right, we'll send it back to Brian.
That, or do we want to take any of the individuals that have spoke tonight, their thoughts, and pass those on to Brian while he's doing this draft to have them incorporated, or,
Yeah, that would probably be a good idea.
I don't know, I'm just asking.
Might as well be a jump start.
And then we could maybe suggest that Brian make arrangements, Mike, and you can reiterate your comments that you made tonight to the committee. We might get them, or I might get them confused if I try to repeat. I don't know.
Well, Mike needs to look at that draft and make adjustments on it.
Right. Well,
Because I have not seen that.
the
Right.
first draft.
Yes, the first
Because we're
draft.
waiting for a second draft. Okay. Yep, I could see that you get a copy of the first draft that we have. And then I'm going to give you a copy of Landon's comments that I just read too, if you'd like to see those, so, yeah. Is it okay if I don't give those to you till tomorrow morning? I'll be out and about running around, so. Okay,
Okay, we good?
I'm fine.
Anything else? Any more comments? Nothing? Come on.
But if I'm understanding Mr. Stuckert correctly, your thoughts are, don't laugh at me, is, and let's see here. You feel there does need to be a fence or we don't?
We do not,
Okay,
because of all the river runs through it,
okay,
you know? And I played in the river as a kid, just like a lot of other kids did, so.
okay. So if we put a fence requirement, in, this is just a little cute side note, and then the people have the opportunity to go to the BZA for a variance, we know how you're gonna vote, Mr. Stuckert, right? I'm just teasing you, but, okay, I'll shut up. I really can. Quick! You have a point there, yeah, you have a point.
Meeting adjourned?
It's 6:58.
Finance Committee, July 11th, 2024.
We're going to call the Finance Committee to order at 7:00 PM. Present is James Me, Christopher Mauritz, Vicky DeShawn, and myself, Chair. Is there any public participation for Finance Committee? Seeing none, you have before you the minutes of the June 20th, 2024 regular Finance Committee meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Me, second by Mr. Mauritz. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Auditor, it's all you.
Yeah, I'm going to switch the organization around a little bit here because I feel like we should talk about creating the fund before we appropriate monies to the fund. I know. So because of the grant we got from ODNR for the All-Miller Park walking path, I would like to create a fund number 404 ODNR All-Miller Walking Path, program 7770. And if you have the paper in front of you, it says general government. That was an oversight. It should say land and buildings. Item numbers 23, contractual services, and item number 25, capital outlay. And that is it for the fund creation. On to appropriations.
Does that need to have its own piece of legislation, or can it be
Yes.
together?
I believe it needs to be separate.
All right. Then, let me interrupt you. I'm going to entertain a motion to create Fund 404 as an emergency.
So,
Second?
Motion by Mr. Me, second by Mr. Mauritz. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. All right.
All right, back to appropriations. So the first thing that happened, for the FEMA grant for demolishing 539 North Lane Street, there was an extra dispersal for $450, which we have to pay back. That money was not appropriate at the time because it was an additional disbursement. So we need to appropriate that money so I can write a check to send it back. So we need to appropriate in Fund 264 FEMA 2023 539 North Lane Street under Program 7780 General Government under item line other uses, the amount of $450. And on to appropriating money for the ODNR grant for the All-Miller Walking Path under Fund 404 ODNR All-Miller Walking Path under Program 7770 Lands and Buildings, got it right there. Under item number 23, contractual services, $50,000, and under item line 25, capital outlay, $382,000.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion as an emergency for those two appropriations.
Second.
Motion for that.
Oh, we have to have the motion first.
Yeah.
Second.
Mr. Mauritz makes the motion.
And I second it.
Mrs. DeShawn seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? There you go. Anything else? At least from the auditor.
No.
You're good, okay. On the marijuana regulations, nothing to talk about until we get more information. Any open projects that any of you wish to bring up, Mr. Me?
No, we're good.
Mr. Mauritz?
I'm good.
Mrs. DeShawn?
No.
All right, any public participation for finance? Seeing none, we will adjourn at 7:03 PM.